Okay, so I don't hear any more bells, so I'm gonna just start. Hello, my name is Anthony Bodlovich. I'm the current program director and faculty at Loyola Marymount's Marital and Family Therapy with specialized training in art therapy department. It's a mouthful, but you also learn so much while in this program, so we needed a long title to encapsulate everything that you're going to learn. So we're going to today, the goal is to give you a little overview of the program, as well as about admissions, because some of you might be here because you know the deadline for applications is the end of November. And so you might have some questions about that as well. If you have any questions while I'm doing my presentation, please write them in the chat and I'll do my best to keep remembering to look over to the chat. But if I forget something, I'll make sure at the end of the presentation to go back over the chat. If you have any specific questions that you feel are very important, but really maybe more pertain to your specific case, I'll put my email there and we can have a conversation at another time, set up a meeting to go over the specifics of that. But sometimes a good question is helpful for everybody because other people might be in similar situations. Okay, so I'm going to start, but also I just want to, Cheryl Hugo is here as well. I don't know if you just wanted to say hello in here just for a second to help us get started, but if you want to name a little bit of who you are and what you do here.
Hi everyone, Cheryl Hugo, Graduate Admissions. I've probably communicated with some of you, so if you have any questions other than for Anthony, you can always email us as well.
Thank you. Okay. So I have a lovely PowerPoint that I'm going to share with you all. Share my screen. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Now, can you see the screen? Okay, well, that is great because I can see it and see you all, which is ideal. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Oh no, I lost you all. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I'm in a browser and it's a little bit new, but you can still see the screen. Cheryl, the screen's still visible? Like the PowerPoint?
Yes,
Okay,
but
great.
It's showing everything, all your other slides too. Like it's not in speaker mode.
Oh no. Like this? Okay, this is complicated. But what's great, but the unfortunate thing, I can't see anybody. So I'm going to, because I had to use my browser. So for some reason, I can't see you all and the thing. So I'm going to do my best to do this a little blindly. So if anyone has a question, you might have to interrupt me and let me know if something has gone awry. But so welcome. So as I said, this is Marital and Family Therapy with specialized training in art therapy department, and we are housed in the College of Communication and Fine Arts, which is an important place for us because though we are a marital family therapy department housed in psychology, the centrality of the art is really important and integral into what we do. So being part of the College of Communication and Fine Arts is really important to us because of how integrated the art therapy approach is in our program. There aren't MFT classes and art therapy classes. They are combined where we are learning the theories of marital family therapy and art therapy and how to integrate them. So they're integrated in all of our work. And this is the dean of our college who supports our program, and really grateful that under his watch, we've been able to grow in our faculty and our scope and the trainings we provide. The program was founded by Helen B. Langarden, who wanted to really think about how to use art therapy, not just to supplement psychological processes, but really as its own modality. And so art therapy, for some of you, might be very familiar with what it is. And according to the American Art Therapy Association, it's an integrative mental health and human service profession that enriches the lives of individuals, families, and communities. through active art making, creative process, applied psychological theory, and human experience within a psychotherapeutic relationship. And is used to improve cognitive and sensory motor functions, foster self-esteem and self-awareness, cultivate emotional resilience, promote insight, enhance social skills, reduce and resolve conflicts and distress, and advance societal and ecological change. And that's a lot. And so it is a form of activism, it's a form of self-reflection. But as this 9-year-old client said, it's a time to draw what's on my mind. So often when I tell people I'm an art therapist, they assume I work with children or older populations, but I actually primarily work with married couples and use the art to help facilitate communication and to assess dynamics. Having a couple draw together can tell you a lot about the roles they might play and the dynamics that are at hand in the relationship. So it is quite a wide scope, and Marital and Family Therapy is the name of the license that we are preparing you to take, or the exam to take, but it is abroad. You work with individuals, with couples, with groups, so it's a very expansive population to work with. And again, this is sort of our program. We have geared it to really integrate the art therapy and family systems orientation. So some programs have art therapy courses, MFT courses, like I said. We combine that process, so you're always thinking about how they work together. We really embrace a multicultural focus throughout the curriculum. We are approved by the American Art Therapy Association and by the California Board of Behavioral Sciences. So the American Art Therapy Association takes care of the art therapy credential that you are working towards, and the BBS is toward the MFT. And in the state of California, you cannot just have an art therapy credential to be able to be a primary clinician. So you can't have a private practice and only have an art therapy, which is why we work as an MFT as well. So I'm going to just escape for a second so I can see you all for a moment, because I want to make sure I'm letting people in, because I don't know if Cheryl is here.
I'm letting people in, no worries.
Okay, thank you. I just wasn't sure how long you're going to be here, because
I'll hang out for a good 30 minutes.
Thank you so much, so I can go back to this beautiful presentation. Okay. So this is our suite. If you come in here to the campus, some of you might have been on campus, and we're going to kind of go on a little tour of who you might see here. And so our department chair is Dr. Lavinia Jackson, whose work is focused on cultural humility, who wrote a book on cultural humility and art therapy, and really brings that as a central backbone to our program. How to work within diverse spaces and places, and also about self-reflection, because to be a good clinician, you have to understand yourself. So a lot of this program is looking internally, understanding yourself, so you have a better sense of what you're bringing to the space. I am then also here as a program director. I am a working sort of artist, so I bring a lot of the centrality to art making to make sure that our students continue to create art as a way of their own self-reflection, as a way of knowing, and kind of think about gallery spaces and contemporary art and how it influences and can inform our practices. Dr. Jessica Bianchi, we have a clinic here on, well, it's sort of on campus. It's more of like a clinic that goes to different sites. So having our own clinic means we provide services to the community, and Dr. Bianchi has an EDD. So it's really interested in that the bridge between art therapy and education, and art therapy and like community work, and is currently the director of the clinic. Now, it was great having a clinic on campus because during the quarantine, COVID-19, we were able to still have our students continue to practice and work when certain agencies were able to shut down. And so we're able to continue to provide services virtually and have our students stay on track for graduation. We also have Dr. Joyce Yip-Green, who has a PhD in international psychology and is currently heading our research institute. So we have a journal that we actually publish that's based in the department and from the department. And Dr. Green also is in charge of our international program. And so we'll talk more about that later. And we have a new clinical faculty, Maru Sarikio Joyner, who also has a PhD in international psychology and has just joined us right now and really helps us understand and teach family systems. Kathleen Fogel-Richmond is our full-time practicum coordinator, which we'll talk more about, but Kathleen is in charge of the clinical work. So the practicum is the clinical work that students do while still in the program. So when they're providing services, you're placed at different sites. We have 2 different sites you'll have during your time here, which is great. And a lot of other programs, you have to find your own site. There's like a list of approved sites. You have to go schedule those appointments and make that happen on your own. But Kathleen does that for you by talking to you, trying to match you with a good site. You still interview and make sure it's a good fit, but you don't have to do a lot of that work. And then we have Lori Gloyd, our senior administrative coordinator, who you might already interfaced with, who's in charge of keeping all of this together, corresponding with students, and just really holding this whole place. So that is who you will see. Now, the program is either a 2-year or 3-year program. And I'll go first through the 2-year, which is the most common track that students take. And in the first year, in the first semester, you're taking classes on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And the classes are designed to introduce you to mental health systems. And also there's an art therapy studio to help you kind of understand, starting to think about art as a clinical tool and starting to understand how our mental health system works and how art therapists work within that mental health system. You also start learning about art therapy literature and research and the fundamentals of family systems and laws and ethics, and working with children in psychotherapy and art psychotherapy. On Thursdays, you will take psychopathology, where you learn about diagnosis and how some of the benefits and drawbacks of diagnosis, and psychological testing and art therapy assessment, learning to read psychological tests, and also practicing and concepts of group psychotherapy. You're not in therapy, you are practicing and understanding how group therapy works. So this is a lot of courses. So it's quite packed, but it is really important because we're gearing you up towards, believe it or not, your first practicum, which is going to happen in the next semester. So these are the foundational courses, and you're on campus 3 days a week. One of the things we try to do is really embed some field work and sort of experiential learning. So for example, in the child psychotherapy class, we go to Dolores Mission School so you can observe children in their natural habitats, watching and getting used to the interface and using the art and working in groups to sort of assess children's artwork and working on some goals with the school. We were able to pivot to online when we needed to, but we're back in person in Dolores Mission. And it's been great being back with safety precautions, of course, and just kind of having the students have that kind of first experience in a classroom setting with their peers. So after that, you have your second semester where you are now on campus Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you're furthering your knowledge of marital and family therapy theory, and those children have grown up so fast, now they're adolescents, learning to work with adolescents in psychotherapy. There's also a family observation course where you watch videos of therapists doing family therapy to kind of see how it looks in practice. On Thursdays, there's drug and alcohol treatment, adult psychotherapy, and continuing to kind of further the understanding of how to work with adults, couples, and in that space. And we have marriage and family therapy issues and applications, which is really a support for your practicum, which you'll be starting. So you'll have your first experience in the field in your second semester. And this is to help you understand, like, how do you work the first session? How do you collect the art and things like that? And also a little introduction to research, just kind of the basic principles of research, which will be the focus of your second year. So we also do a experiential where the students in the adolescent course will go to juvenile hall to work with incarcerated adolescents and work with them. And some of the students were really nervous about this, never having worked with adolescents before or being uncomfortable with the idea of going to juvenile hall. A lot of times students come in with the idea of what populations they can and can't work with. And sometimes they have their reasons and justifications, but often it's just the unknown. And so when there was a survey done about how anxious students were about going to juvenile hall, you can see their anxiety was somewhat apprehensive. And then after they went to juvenile hall, you can see it really diminished. So what's great about having 2 practicum experiences and these experientials is that you get to work with different populations and might be surprised at some of the populations that you really enjoy working with. So the first practicum, again, is you're placed on a site, and it's 15 weeks and 16 hours per week. And they tend to be short-term models where you're really just learning how to kind of start doing this work. So you'll have an on-site supervisor, someone who's helping you on-site, making sure you understand how the site works and talking about your cases. And you'll also have an off-site art therapy supervisor to help you understand how to incorporate the art. So you're really being held during this time, and it's a great kind of introduction how to do the work. So shorter treatment models means like places where perhaps people are coming in for shorter groups, or like, for example, like methadone clinics where people have to come in and check in with someone before they get their methadone, which is a drug replacement therapy for people that have an opioid addiction, and other places like that. And again, Kathleen works with you to help you figure out what is a good site for you to start with, and will pair you based on geography and interest and any other things that you might have needs for. And yeah, oh, there's a practicum video, but I'll put that link to that at the end, and we can kind of watch a little bit more about the students talking about the practicum. Okay. Now, exciting news, but let me pause for a second. Let me escape this so I can see your faces again. See if there's anything available. Okay, just want to see your faces for a second. Yeah, I'm having a window issue, but it's nice to see who I'm looking at because I'm, you know, talking into the void. Okay, let's continue into the summer, which is really exciting because we had to pause our summer program where, we'll get there. So in the summer, because it's there's a lot of courses to take, there's 2 short courses that are done half online, half in person, just a few weekends in the summer. Now our summer starts in May, and you're usually done by these classes in June. So you still have, and we don't start again until August. So you still have a robust summer. So it's not like your entire summer is gone. But we talk about aging and long-term care and trauma-informed art therapy, which are really important and required for your license. We just found cramming them into the semester, as you can see, was kind of a lot. But they're kind of a nice different model, and it's a little, it's less time, but really kind of nice to be able to focus on these really important topics with more space. And even though those are exciting, what I was excited about is that we have a summer program in San Miguel de Allende, which we weren't unable to do for a few years, and now we're back for this year, going in July. And it's a kind of field work and experiential where art therapists from Mexico and art therapists from our program go and work together and take courses and then do field work, working with families in a different space and thinking about how does art therapy function in a different place where there's different cultural norms. There's so much about like a separation between the therapist and the client in Western psychology and therapy, where in Mexico it's a little more informal. You're greeting your clients or kissing them. You kind of might be in the same spaces together. And it's interesting to have this cross-cultural dialogue and thinking about how it really broadens our perspective of our work and how our work can be more inclusive and understanding of different needs. And so Ana Laura Trevino, who is pictured in the sort of the jeans holding her knees, she is our affiliate who works for the IMPA, the Instituto Mexicano de Psicoterapia de Arte in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico City. And so we're excited to be back there and doing our field work again. And this is an optional program that if you'd like to go, it is something we encourage, but it is not required. So now, we've got one more year to go if you're in the 2-year track. And in the second year, we're really focusing on research and more practicum, so more training. You're only in class on Tuesdays, and it's a full day of having cultural considerations. So really thinking about how our cultures inform our work. And again, understanding more deeply the theories of marital and family therapy. And now starting your research project. So part of your graduation requirements is to do a research project. You're in research teams being led by faculty and thinking about different ideas and working together to publish or either a research paper or a research paper that stays on campus in the library, or working towards publishing in a journal. So a lot of times people will leave the program with a publication, which is really exciting. And for example, this year I'm leading a group that's looking at ritual in art therapy and how art therapists use ritual processes in their work, and what it means if they're borrowing ritual processes from other cultures and how that works and how they mitigate that. So I'm excited to do that work. And then you're really just in your practicum for 20 hours a week, where you're starting to put into practice the things that you are learning and have learned. And the second year practicum is now 30 weeks, so it's twice as long, and you have a few more hours per week. And these are more longer term treatment models where you're really going to experience the 3 phases of therapy, the beginning and the middle and the end, and kind of really having that practice. Once again, you're going to have an on-site supervisor that's going to help you while you're there, and an off-site art therapy supervisor to make sure you're understanding how to incorporate the work. We have practicum sites all over Los Angeles County as well as in San Diego. And this is even not even as updated, where we have a lot more sites where we place our students. And it's and Kathleen is always open to new ideas. So if you have sites that you're interested in working with, Kathleen can often work with them to make sites. That's how our students who sometimes were commuting from San Diego were really needing places to work, and Kathleen made that happen too. And often we try to place people in sites that will hire them when they graduate. And that's how when I'm a graduate of the program and was hired right by my practicum, so I didn't have to even look for work, which was really nice. So we try to find sites that really have a great relationship with our program and really see the value of our program and the students that and the clinicians we train. And then you have your final semester, where again, it's just on Tuesdays, you're finishing that practicum up, and we are going over different kind of courses, intimate partner violence, which is a shorter course. I think things are kind of shifting a little bit, where human sexuality, I think, is going to be incorporated into adults. So you'll have one less class, and professional ethics and identity and research in the clinical paper. So again, you're on campus on Tuesday, delving more deeply into some of these ideas of your professional ethics and identity, and finishing up the research project that you started the first semester. And then you're just in your practicum, kind of finishing that up, and then you've graduated. So if you're, I'll pause in a second for any questions or thoughts, but in the 3-year program, what you're really doing is, instead of being on campus for those 3 days in the first year, you're really only on campus for 2 days in that first year. And then the Thursday courses that you did not take that first year become your second year. So it sort of isn't quite part-time, because the final year is the same. The 3rd year of the 3-year track is the same as the 2nd year of the 2-year track. What we do is we take that first year and take the Thursday courses out and create another year out of that. So it's sort of like the 2nd year in the 3-year track can feel kind of slow, and then it kind of picks up. So we had to do it this way just because of the courses that are required for practicum, but it sort of is not, we sometimes refer to it as part-time, but it can feel kind of part-time in the first 2 years, and then you're kind of full-time in the last year, because you have to complete that many hours of practicum training. And then we're going to go into, so you can see the last year is the kind of the same. But we're going to go into some more of this information, but I just wanted to know if you had currently just any questions about the program, anything we talked about.
Yeah, I had a quick question. My name is Elizabeth. You said for practicum that the person that oversees that is open to new locations. Would
Yes.
you happen to know if there's anything up in Big Bear, anywhere near Big Bear?
We don't, not currently, but that does not mean that we cannot work with you to kind of like have that happen.
Okay.
And so that's the exciting thing about the program, is we really can be adaptable. But let me just go through some of these. So a lot of the questions are really about application. We're going to get there in a second. And so could we be paired close to where we live? Exactly. That's what Kathleen tries to do, is minimize your commute. And especially if we're trying to get you hired in a place where you might want to work, really being thoughtful about that. And as far as like the 3-year program, which is a little confusing, just know that it takes the first year and divides that into 2 years. So you just take the Thursday courses out of the first year and it takes them in the second. So the difference is it just really paces people out. A lot of people take the 3-year track because they're either want to extend the tuition costs, they want to spread that out, so they're not paying for all of those units at once. Or sometimes they're trying to work, which is more possible in the first and second years of the 3-year track than it is the last year because you're in practicum 20 hours and all day on Tuesday. So a lot of people also want to slow the learning. They feel like it's like maybe too many courses at first and they prefer to sort of like go a little more slow. So there's different reasons why people take it. There's usually between 2 to 4 people in those cohorts. So the difference is if you start in the 2-year track, you follow the same people every semester. It's a cohort. You follow the same group of 20, 25 people till you graduate. If you're in the 3-year track, you start with one group and then you pick up with another. So it's great in some ways because you have 2 different cohort experiences, 2 different networking possibilities. But it also can be hard for some people who feel like they lose a little bit of that community feeling if the 3-year cohort is smaller. So sometimes we've had 3 people in the 3-year cohort and they stay together, but they meet a new cohort in their second year because those students have already taken the Thursday courses that the second year 3-year track students have it. If you have some questions about that, it's I know it's kind of hard to conceptualize, but I will be able to answer it. But we can go over what works better for you. And oftentimes students decide to switch tracks sometimes, and they feel, hey, can I slow down and go to the 3-year track? We ask you to decide before you apply, just because it helps us figure out where to place people and how many slots we have as well. So you are on campus all 3 of those days if you're doing the 2-year track, or those 2 days if you're doing the 3-year track. So you're on campus. None of the courses are sort of online right now because we found it's just helpful to do the experiential this way, except for the summer courses, which those 2 summer courses are. The practicum requirements in the 3-year are the same, which is why on Thursday, but you're only in classes. I feel like I need a diagram. I feel like I should get a piece of paper out and diagram it. But the practicum hours are the same. So you have the 16 hours required in your second year if you're doing the 3-year track. So you're doing your practicum in the second year, 16 hours, and then 20 hours in the last year. So it starts to kind of ramp up, but that's only in the second time. And as far as the class times, you're pretty much in class all day long, starting from 10 to sometimes later in the afternoon. So it's kind of an all-day class experience. So let's get into like some of the application stuff, and then I can get into more specific questions that you all have. So let's get back to it. And then if you have questions about the second or third year, I'll go more into it. All right, let me share my screen again. And let's go here. Okay. And so if you have anything that's not happening that you need me, like just interrupt, I won't be able to see you, but I'll pause again. Okay. Here we go. So again, I mentioned we have a clinic, and a lot of the students do their first year practicum through our clinic. And our clinic, again, provides art therapy programs to different places. So right now we have Resilient Ready groups, which we go mostly to schools or other places that need art therapy. They just don't have the structure for it. So the clinic isn't kind of a physical space. It's more of a network of art therapists that then go to different places that need their services. So Helen B. Linggarden founded the clinic, and even though it says Art Therapy Clinic on this door, that door actually leads to our library, because again, the clinic does the work on site. So instead of having people come on campus, we go to them. And it's a really great multifaceted program that keeps expanding too. This is what I was saying. We have a research institute, and we publish the Journal of Clinical Art Therapy. We also sponsor visiting scholars and faculty talks. We have an alumni research collective for alumni who are interested in publishing and want some support. And we have an annual research symposium where we meet together and talk about research in art therapy. It's a really new field relatively, and there's a lot more research done. So it's really possible to make a name for yourself in the field if research is something you're interested in. And we have a lot of mechanisms to support you for publication. Now, questions you might have about admissions. So you do have to have art and psychology requirements. Now, these requirements do not have to be completed before you turn in your application, but they do have to be completed before you begin the program, which will be in August. So November is our deadline for the, I believe it's November 22nd, I'll double check that on the slide, is the deadline for our applications this year for the fall. But you will not start classes until August. So you have that time to complete your prerequisites. And you will have a form to fill out that will, you can list your plan for the prerequisites. If you have a lot of prerequisites, it might be difficult to complete them in that time. So we do pay attention to that because we want to make sure that if you're admitted, that you have a plan for completion. The prerequisites in art are 18 semester hour credits or 27 quarter hour credits. These credits could be taken as part of your bachelor's degree. It could also be taken at community colleges. And also with these art requirements, if you did private lessons with an artist or worked in places that are non-accredited, if you get a letter stating you did this many hours of art under somebody, that will also count towards those hours. There's not a particular kind of art you need to take. So it doesn't have to be painting or drawing, it's whatever, as long as it's art. And you have questions about it. If you took a class that maybe doesn't have an art in the name, but you've made art in it, you can also just let us know and we can review the syllabus and see if it'll count toward those units or hours. And then there's prerequisites in psychology, and these are more specific. So we have to have 12 semester hour credits, and they have to be, one of them has to be developmental. So that could be child, adolescent, or lifespan, and one has to be abnormal. And the other units and credit hours can be whatever course, as long as it's psychology. And they have to be taken within the last 5 years because things change. And so if you took a class in 1972, the psychology is a little different. So we want to make sure that they are updated. And again, these can be taken from junior colleges, community colleges, or can be embedded in your BA as long as they're within 5 years. And eventually you'll send in the transcript. So if you don't have your transcripts now because you have not completed it, you can still apply. And we'll just look at your plan to make sure that you have a plan of completion. And we can go more into that in a moment. So we do require a bachelor's degree because it's a master's program. And we required testing, but now we only recommend it. So you could take the GRE if you are inclined to. What you're trying to do is paint a portrait of who you are. And we are looking for your ability to manage a graduate program. And so if you feel like your grades in your college do not really reflect the work you do, because sometimes we have other things going on in our lives, this is another way you can add evidence of your academic ability. But you can also contextualize that in your autobiography or your letters of recommendation. So you're really helping us understand you. And so you want this to be these documents to kind of reflect who you are. So 2 letters of recommendation are really from anybody that you think can really speak to any relevant any relevant professional or volunteer or mental health experience. And that's up to you to decide who you think would be helpful. In autobiography, you really want to emphasize pivotal personal life experiences that help us understand why this is the career choice you've made. Again, you're not going to be able to tell your whole story in 10 to 12 pages, but it's really about understanding how you got to here. We also want you to see the work you make, and you don't have to be a professional artist. But if you've taken these art requirements, then you might show work you made in the courses. You also might just have doodles and sketches you do or photos that you take. And we want you to show up to 10 images with a variety of material and media, because we want to see that you're comfortable. And it doesn't have to be like one ceramic piece, one painting piece, but just like that if it's all photography, we might feel like, oh, maybe you're limited in that, and it might affect the way you can work with clients who might be more comfortable in other materials. And one statement that talks about your relationship to that image. And again, we're looking for personal meaning and reflection about it. So if it's more of a technical piece, That was part of an assignment, and it doesn't really have a lot of personal meaning, but it looked really nice because it was a really nice tree. Maybe don't speak to that one because we're not really looking at the quality of the work. We're looking at your ability to reflect on it. What does it mean to you? What did it mean to make the piece? How did it feel to make it? There'll be an online interview, but it's not quite an interview. What it is that you will record yourself answering some questions that pop up that talk more about and help us understand your understanding of art therapy, your understanding of marital family therapy, a little bit about who you are. And so it's a way for us to get to see and hear you as part of the application process. And as I mentioned before, the prerequisite checklist, that is submitted with the application where you can just kind of check off all the prerequisites. So if you do have courses that you haven't taken, here on the checklist is where you write in your plan. So there's a form where you can write that plan in and say, I need to take 3 more units of psychology. I'm enrolled in LA Valley College, and I'm going to be finishing it in, December or February or whatever month. And so there's an online application. You can go. So when you go to the graduate admissions website and you click on the application, there's different kind of psychology programs or therapy, kind of counseling programs. So you want to make sure that you go under College of Communication and Fine Arts to make the selection. And we're a Master's of Arts in Marital and Family Therapy with a specialization in art therapy. You're going to submit the application as you go, so you can submit things and pause and go back. But it's recommended that you just get the email addresses of the people you're writing the letter to, because they'll be sent to be prompted to send that letter in. And make sure you have things settled to be able to input and put them into the application. But again, you can return to the application at different times. Okay. And we are having, if you then make it to the second round, you will be attending a group interview. It's probably going to be via Zoom on February 4th or 5th. You'll break up into groups where we'll kind of get to talk to you in person and have more time to answer personal questions or talk more about concerns you might have, and also just ask you more questions. So it's kind of 2 processes. There's the application, and then once we review it, a group of people make it to the next round, which is more of a group interview process. The program is expensive in that the tuition rate is $1,385 per unit. It's a 50-unit course, 50-unit program. So there are graduate grants and scholarships that you can get but they don't really cover the cost of the tuition. So it's really important to talk to financial aid if you have questions and concerns about that. And there's also opportunities through our associations, which I'll go through, that the Art Therapy Association and sometimes the Board of Behavioral Sciences offer grants and scholarships too. And we'll also let you know of any loan forgiveness programs or other opportunities you can apply for grants that would become available. And that's dependent upon what funds are made available by the government for that. But there's a lot of different ways that we help support you through it. But again, it's not an inexpensive program, but we believe it offers a lot of quality. And again, the relationships we form with the practicums and the work we can do to help you publish and also help you get employed, it's money well spent, I think. And let's see, the campus support, it's a beautiful campus and there's a lot of ways to get involved. We have a student art association, a student art therapy association, a graduate student association that really can help kind of foster deeper connections. There's also student affairs division, which has groups where you can kind of talk with other people who share your experiences to get more involved on campus. So it's a really lovely place to be. And again, it's very small and there's great opportunities to get involved and be part of a larger campus community. Speaking of community, these are the professional organizations that we are a part of. So the American Art Therapy Association is where the art therapy component. The Southern California Art Therapy Association is a subset of that, focusing on Southern California, and the California Association of Marital and Family Therapy, or CAMT. So these are places that's great to sign up for or look at their newsletters. There are places where scholarships are announced and other things that can help support you. And you get, if you join these organizations as a student, you can join with a discounted rate, and they're great resources. All right, now employment. So 90% of our 2021 graduates are currently employed. that, and some of them are, the rest of the 10% are either not looking right now or have not found work because they're looking for something kind of specific or taking a time off. But we're going to follow up another 6 months and see how they're doing. But we have a pretty good employment rate. We have a small cohort. We don't want to have more students than we can guarantee jobs for. There are a lot of MFTs that graduate, but having the art therapy component gives you a little edge. And we really, again, make great partnerships with organizations that tend to hire our students as well. So we really try to support you, and you can sign up to be constantly updated about job postings. Often businesses and agencies will send us announcements before they put it out to the general public that we then forward to our students or alumni. If you're interested in knowing more about what's going on, we're starting to use social media a little bit more, and LMU Art Therapy is our Instagram. We just had a 40th anniversary, so 40 years of our program, and there's some content related to that on our Instagram. Okay, let me stop sharing and see your faces again. All right. So,
I definitely have a question.
Okay, great.
I'm very anxious.
Okay, let me know your question.
Okay, my name's Arika Coco Santos, and I have already been through the process at LMU. I've been to orientation, open house, and I've been in school forever. I'm 41 years old. I actually did a semester for art therapy at Naropa in Colorado,
Great.
and that was in 2018. So my question specifically is, Michael Franklin was one of my professors and highly recommended, I really want research, more research than Naropa had to offer. So I've been researching art therapy programs for many, many years. And like I said, I did one semester there. It really wasn't my community. But I just met with him for lunch last week, and he said to ask, because it's always worth asking, my prerequisites, I've done all the requisites. I was already in a graduate program, been in school forever. I'm a single mom. I'm moving back to California specifically again to try for this LMU program. Do you ever override or give a reasonable accommodation for that 5-year? I've done all these. I have excellent transcripts. And like I said, I've been in a graduate program already. It would be kind of detrimental time-wise for me to have to take those 2 psych classes. And I've already looked it up. Since I'm out of state, it would cost me close to $1,200 to $1,500 just for those 2 psych classes. And it really wasn't that long, that much more than 5 years. It wasn't in the 70s, but
yeah, so if you have you can definitely email us if you're saying I think the ecology courses are really relevant. We'll look at the syllabus. So it's not like you have a direct
thank you, because I was a little I don't want to take those again. And
no, that's fair. And just know that we are flexible and open.
Okay, because that's my main question.
And so if you feel because we're trying to capture the spirit of something and wanting to make sure that we have to give some sort of guideline, but we also want to be open to tips. So you can say, here you go. Does this meet the requirements? And we will look it over and we will be let's chat about this. So it's not
good.
Just going
through.
Because
even Michael Franklin was just try, go to the orientation, talk to someone, because I emailed somebody and they were nope, it has to be 5 years. So that's why I'm here again. And I'm let me personally ask someone.
I'll put my email on the bottom and you can just make sure you email me and we can have a conversation because I'm the person who approves it. So
I would love that. Thank you.
The next question we have is will a chance to be accepted be lowered on how close to the deadline? No, because we don't even look at it until the deadline is done. And then we just sort of have all the applications come in and then we sort through them that way. We have a rubric and it's kind of a blind review where we just kind of go through. You don't need experience in, you need experience in art to apply to the program in their prerequisites for art, but you don't have to think of yourself as an artist per se to be in the program. We have a lot of people who come in from law degrees and they're I'm sick of lying. There's people that are graphic designers that are I have carpal tunnel and I don't want to do this anymore. So so many people come back to this program at all sorts of ages, and we don't feel like if this is something you feel called to, we welcome all different kinds of ways to come to this place. The LPCC is not something we have right now as in addition to MFT. It's something we're thinking about expanding as we're expanding, but it is not something we offer right now. It's MFT, and it's really important to know that it is really specific to California licensure. If you're going to go to another state, that MFT degree, you have to reapply for licensure in that other state. Sometimes it's easy peasy, beautiful, and sometimes it's a little more complicated, where you might have to take, for example, in New York requires a New York law course to take, which we don't offer because we don't practice in New York. So you might have to take an additional course and reapply for an exam. If you know you want to work out of state, sometimes people kind of work toward that while they're in the program, kind of not getting their hours here. And let's see. If you have to take art, okay, what are the differences between 2 and 3 years? I can go in more into the 2 and 3 year program again, and it's probably easier to talk to me one-on-one to talk about the specifics for you, what that would mean. Let's see. Are we able to access this journal? The great thing is the journal is free. So if you type in the Journal of Clinical, I can't remember the name, the Journal of Clinical Art Therapy, it should pop up and it's free to look at. And for anybody, because we wanted to make sure that it was open access. So anybody from around the world without having a barrier, a pay barrier, could access this information. Admissions results, good question. So you'll definitely hear, let's see, so applications due the end of November. No one is here until really January. I mean, we're on vacation on the winter break. So usually there's like some assessing going on, and then you probably hear back, I would say, in January if you are coming to the February interview, and then by March you have if you've gotten into the program. Sometimes earlier than March. So it gives you time to kind of plan and think ahead and wanting to make sure if you've applied to other schools. The Miller's Analogies test was something we required before. It's an analogies test that's the research about is a little antiquated. It's really culturally bound, but all these tests are. So really, it's up to you what you want to take and submit. If the Miller's Analogy, you really want to take it and you have taken it, you can just email me and we'll go through that. We're really kind of phasing out the tests because of how, again, they're really culturally bound and not necessarily a great indicator of the kind of work that we do here. But we just want to make sure that the person is able to, like, it's a master's level. We don't want to have someone come in with and feel like completely unprepared for that. Let's see. The program, you can't start the program any other time but the fall because the courses are sequenced in a particular order. So you don't even select the courses you want to take. Everyone takes the courses in an order. They're sequenced. It's helpful because then you all kind of have the same experiences and we can create more of a integrative learning approach. So you have to start the program in the fall. As far as the art portfolio, it doesn't have to be professional photography. It just as long as we can see it. So we don't have like a minimum resolution requirement. You don't need to hire someone to come and like photograph these things for you using your iPhone with some good lighting. Again, I'm not, or any phone you have. I'm not like, we're not helping Apple here. So past the deadline, if you have any supplemental materials that you'd like to submit, you can always submit them, but let us know you're submitting them. So if you feel like I have some more art I'd like to submit, just let us know that you have some supplementals. We can't guarantee we'll see it at that time, but you can always let us know when they're coming. But we will be waiting for the materials. If you have like prerequisites that haven't been completed, we will need to see those transcripts after that. Yeah, so January, the February will not be on-campus interview. That will be a Zoom interview. We found that it was just a little easier because some people have to travel. Some people are local and some people have to travel, and it just felt like a lot of strain on individuals. Some people want to come see the campus, and you can do that. You can arrange with me to just kind of have a tour of the campus and come on another time if you want to see the campus. But the February interview will be on Zoom. And so if you're not sure if art therapy is the right place for you, I would recommend not applying right now, but again, looking at like articles written by art therapists, there are different places you can volunteer. It's hard to get that exact experience because of the clinical nature, but Free Arts is an organization in Los Angeles that takes volunteers that works with art with children, and it's a helpful place that a lot of our students, applicants before they became students, went to get experiences. If you have more questions about that, you can also email me about volunteer opportunities. But it is, helpful to talk to other art therapists. So if you have questions, you can email me and I can help you connect to an alumni who can help answer some questions that you have about the field, especially thinking about people who are coming in from different perspectives. Like, can I do this work in this kind of way? And we can talk more about that too. So the thing about the program is you need to be registered and licensed. So you get your master's, but you can't necessarily practice as your own clinician until you are licensed and registered. So the registration's for art therapy and the licensure is for your MFT. That means that you can get a job, but you're called an associate when you graduate. And people love hiring associates. You get hired, you don't get paid as much, but you work under a supervisor to get your 3,000 hours you need. Because you can imagine this is not, 2 years is great to get the foundations, but you need to have more practice under somebody. Just like a doctor, you graduate from med school, you got to do a lot more hours and training. So 3,000, but you start collecting those 3,000 hours during your time here. And you need about half of that for your art therapy credential. So you can get your license about 2 years for the MFT, and then you can get your art therapy in about half the time in 1 year. But you are still employable as an associate. So it's not like you don't enter the job force until 2 years when you get your license. When you get your license, it means you can start your own business. You now can have your own private practice, or you can be hired without having to be supervised. So you're still employable as an associate, which is what happens when you graduate. You get an associate's number and you're able to be hired.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. So then does that mean that we don't graduate? And sorry, there was so much noise, I didn't hear the first part. So we don't graduate with the license that we need?
You graduate
get that apart?
Yeah, you graduate with the master's, but the license is something you have to work 3,000 more hours, or not 3,000 more, because you've already gotten hundreds of hours.
Okay, got it.
And every 2 years you have to renew your license by taking additional hours of continuing education, which is really nice because we don't want a therapist who's not been, updated in the ways of the world. So it is, you just have to do these every 2 years, take some additional courses, but they're offered all over the place. So it is, you get the master's, and you're prepared for sitting for your exam after you get enough clinical hours under your belt. So if you've completed all your prereqs, but you're not ready to apply, if you want to, you can do some volunteer experience or take some more courses, but it's really up to you. You can also take a break and make some art, self-reflect, whatever you need to do. It really isn't going to affect your standing. It's just more of like the story you're telling about yourself. We're just looking for individuals who we feel are self-reflective and aware of what they're getting into. So to really understand, like, what is an MFT degree? What is an art therapy degree? What does it require? Applications we receive every year is dependent. Sometimes we get 60 that's, I think, an average number, and we take in about 20 students. The age of the applicant into account. So this is the hard part. Once we've kind of brought everyone together, we do kind of try to create a cohort and making sure that people's lived experiences to help balance it out. Because if you're with the same people, it really helps to have people from all different walks of life. So we do consider that when we're building the cohort of thinking about, what it's part of it. So it's not like we have a rubric, like we need someone who's 40 or someone who's 60. It's more of like, okay, we have these applicants. Hopefully we can take everybody, but if not, really thinking about what their background and experience is and what that's offering to the program. So that's part of what you're talking about, is what you're bringing to the space. what experiences and history you're bringing to the space that's part of your application. And again, it's great. We want people from all, like, it's the opposite of just like, every age is exciting to us because everyone's bringing a new perspective. So if you're feeling like, oh no, like I haven't been in school for so long time, how exciting for us. And if you're like, I just got out of school, it's like, how exciting for us. So it really is, the more diversity we have in the space, the more robust the conversations are. And so each of you are learning as much from each other as you are from us. And if you have one more semester left, so a lot of people have not completed their bachelor's yet when they apply, and that's okay too. You can still apply if you feel like you would like to. And the great thing is you can apply and defer. So you can apply, get in and say, I'm not coming in right now, and defer for a year. And you can defer twice. So if you apply and you get in and you're not ready, you can just say, please hold my spot. And we can hold your spot for 2 years. And then after that, you got to reapply again. The application should include gender non-binary, gender non-conforming options. We have students in our program currently who with a diversity of expression. Yeah, so I hope it does, and if it doesn't, let me know, because that's on the graduate department end. But as far as we are concerned, it is really important to us to make sure that we are having everyone feel like there's a space and really opening up that conversation. One of the things that we're actually working on now, as I mentioned, there's a student art association. There are there are restrooms on campus that are marked male and female, and there are no sort of like in the university hall, that's the only option. Though there are 8 restrooms available that do not indicate gender at all. They're just restrooms. They're not located in where most of our classes are. So our organization is working to try to change that and to sort of like create restrooms here that are just like open to anybody who'd like to use them without feeling like they have to choose a category. So it's something that we're, something that we're working on as well to sort of like help the campus understand too.
Sorry to interrupt, but I asked that question and I just looked at the application and it still only says male and female for options.
Well, thank you for letting us know, because that's like the graduate division. I'll have a conversation with them to make sure that that gets rectified. Because as far as our end goes, it's something that we are very conscious about. But if the university is not, then that's a very simple fix, because I can just let them know that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So let's see. Okay, let's see. Anything else? Okay, so yeah, so one of the ways that our program is really rooted in social justice. So one of the tenets of our therapy is really about activism and social justice work. So a lot of what we do is community intervention, and we do that on campus, institutional accountability, really thinking about how we're functioning in the spaces and places. And so a lot of it is through initiatives. A lot of it is through our partnerships. Having a clinic and having a journal is a great place, because we can actually start creating some of these programs. And culture, like I said, cultural humility is one of the rooted tenets of this program, which starts with self-reflection, and then like readdressing power imbalances, and then institutional accountability. So we actually go to trainings at the practicum sites. So sometimes our students will come back and be like, our practicum site has some really interesting ideas about the way they're providing services. And what our clinic tries to do is provide really free services to the community. We really try to like work with practicums that do that, and really provide trainings to the practicums that we work with to ensure that they are really understanding like the concepts of like decolonizing, disrupting, and moving forward. Because again, we have to be really critical of these systems. So a lot of what we're encouraging is our students to continue to push forward with research, because what we're thinking now, in 10 years, we might look back and be like, what were we thinking? So to like understand that the DSM, which is the document in which we develop our diagnoses is a cultural document. It is in some ways the ways culture has failed us, because there isn't space. So a lot of the disorders are really just society hasn't made room for that expression or that experience. So like with ADHD, it's more noticeable in a society that requires us to have a sustained focus and sit and read and learn that way. If our society was more experiential, we were running around and jumping, then someone who just wanted to sit and read might be diagnosed with like lethargic disorder. So it's really important to understand that like it's a complicated process of we want to help our clients be able to function in the world they live in. At the same time, understanding the way the world they live in is maybe not working for them and failing them, and pushing to make changes so there's more room for people to have expression, but also kind of helping understand how can we also work within those spaces. So it's a tricky balance about how to activate and push forward, but also helping understand how do we like function in the world as it is, while changing the world to how we want it to be and going back and forth that way. So making sure that we understand that and really making that evident that we are working within a cultural document and not like a fixed truth, right? Because the DSM has changed. Like homosexuality used to be a disorder in the 70s. And so it's something we have to really understand reflects our society and our cultural understandings. That's always open to critique. And there's a lot of ways in which we pushed forward and changed things. There used to be a very interesting, a very heteronormative idea of like what's reportable abuse, where sort of like oral sex was considered reportable abuse between two 14-year-olds, but vaginal penetration was not. And so it was a very odd, antiquated idea of like vaginal penetration is more of a pure form of expression of sex. I'm really getting into this and people are like, why are we talking about this? But it's important. And so we actually pushed forward and as a community said like, we need to change this, and it's now changed. So there's a lot of accountability and reflection that we do here, that we understand that as we're teaching something, we're also critiquing it at the same time. And we need different voices and experience to help the blind spots that we have. And so, yeah, is this event being recorded? I believe it is. And as far as the initial interview, the one that's being recorded, you'll have it 2 times to do it. So the first time you'll just get questions that pop up and you won't really have the questions in advance, but you can record it again. So you'll kind of see what the questions are, kind of go through it. And if you don't like how you said or what you said, you can then go back and redo it again one more time. But they're just questions that, again, are about what's your understanding of MFT, what's your understanding of art therapy, talking a little bit about what you're bringing to the program when it comes to like your culture, your experiences, things like that. Yeah, it's a lot, but I think we got through some of the good stuff. Yeah, I think one of the great things is it really is such a small community because you are in a small cohort. It's a small campus. So it's great because you don't get just lost in the shuffle. You really have a voice when it comes to research, a voice when it comes to making changes. And we love to like put things into action. And when we are called to, there are many organizations and places that help us do restorative justice workshops. And we really have the systems to do it. We have a clinic to be able to provide services to the community. We have a journal to be able to research. We have a research institute. We have a research component. So we have the mechanisms to actually make the changes, which was really helpful, like I said, when everything else was shutting down and people still needed services and other institutions weren't able to provide them. We still had the ability to provide those services and to adapt. And it was quite difficult, but it was also very, it was really kind of like, impressive to watch. Let's see. Okay, so this is great. So how is the religious foundations of the university reflected or not in the program? So it's a Jesuit institution. And so some people think that if we are sort of leaning towards a particular spiritual or religious practice, and that is not the case. What's great about having a Jesuit background is that we actually have those conversations of spirituality and how important that is with clients that are coming in, regardless of their spiritual practice or their religious practices or not having those practices. But sometimes we're not comfortable talking about certain things like politics or sex or money, but how important that is in people's lives. So having the practice as a clinician to really be able to have those conversations. So the Jesuit education really encourages that kind of conversation, and you can't help but have it because, you know, it's around you. The other thing is the Jesuit institution is founded on social justice as well. So it's something, as our program is being reviewed, and our accountability to the university is to show how we are actually helping in service of the community and educating the whole person. So the Jesuit tenets are not disconnected from our own tenets as our therapists and MFTs, but I will say most of the people on faculty, let's say, like, represent a diversity of expression, religious and spiritual practices. So yeah, and there are crucifixes in all the classrooms. So for some people that might, yeah, but because it is still, again, a Jesuit institution, but we talk about it, we explore it, and it's really been a very fruitful conversations because our clients are going to come in with all sorts of experience in places. And it might be places that were really painful for us. And how do we sit with a client who is maybe struggling in the same way, or maybe getting a lot of strength from a place that caused us a lot of pain? And how do we kind of like reflect and sit in that space? So it's been, it hasn't been, I don't think it's, I think the way our program is integrated in, I think it's been nothing but an asset, because it forces that conversation. Yeah. So when you submit the application, you will, so as far as like, I know I'm like hopping from topic to topic and I'm going through the questions. So when you submit the application the end of November, you'll put in the email addresses of the people that you are requesting the letters from. So it's really good to let them know that you're doing that so they can have the letter ready to go. So when they get that email, they can just throw it in there. Give them some heads up because we're going to start really reviewing those applications after we come back from break. So if we don't have, like, we have like a kind of a month for that letter to arrive, but the sooner the better. So just prep your letter writers ahead of time and maybe tell them now that you'll be expecting, because the sooner it comes in there, it's a little easier for us to review your entire application. And if you want to submit a third letter, if you need, I think there's a mechanism for it. The thing that I don't know right now is the interface, because you have to upload these things. So I don't know if it caps you or if it tells you that. But if you can if you'd like to. But just make sure it goes through the portal, because there's certain things you have to send to us and certain things you upload. So just follow the instructions there. And if you have any specific questions, you can ask me. And I'm going to put my email in the chat. So much nicer to see your faces, I have to say. My Zoom application wasn't working, so I had to use the web browser. It was like speaking to the void, but you're all still here. And so lovely to look at. So yes, so you can email me any particular questions you have. Yeah, so the letter does not have to be in by November 21st, but just make sure that they are aware. And okay, any other questions, feelings, anything else I can help you with? And so yeah, the class hours, like especially, like I said, they're usually morning to later afternoon. And so you expect to be on campus just kind of a full day when you're on campus. And I did put my contact info up there, but I'll resubmit at the end again. Can you share some example of people that send in recommendations? So you mean like the kinds of people that people have, so sometimes we get letters from people that have done volunteer, like supervisors and volunteer experiences. So if you volunteered in certain spaces, people to be able to talk about that. And we have other people that have been like employers or professors. So you're basically trying to figure out, what do you want the letter to balance? Do you feel like you want someone to speak to your academic ability, your ability to work with other people, your art ability? So you're really trying to figure out, like, what do you want, what story you're trying to tell, and where maybe where do you want to evidence that? So it could be a variety of individuals. Sometimes, if you have a parent or a sister or somebody or a sibling write it, we're like, I don't know if that person's quite a, unbiased account, even though we've had letters written by family members that were actually not very nice. So, just be thoughtful about who you're picking it from. But it is really about really what you're trying to show. And if you feel like, my academics don't look so hot in this application, and I'm going to have someone just talk about the way I think and process, and someone I worked with or a professor that I was able to form more of a relationship with, or like, I want someone to talk more about my ability to sort of work with people, and maybe you nannied or something, and you were like, I want a parent to talk about how I work with the children, or maybe you did volunteer at Free Arts, or so it's really about you telling your story. And it's really about, we're looking again for how you work with individuals, how you are as far as the way your brain works, and so things like that. Let's see. So when you are doing the interview questions, when they're just popping up, it's better just to let it flow. Let yourself flow. Just see what happens. And if you don't like the flow, you can flow again, because we really want you to just sit into this information. And if you really don't know something, take a second after the first round and think about how am I bringing this into the space? Because a lot of the work we're going to do with people is you got to just kind of sometimes be in front of somebody and they're telling you something, and you might be like, how do I? So just let yourself be you, because that's what we really want. And we're trying to get you to be a clinician you are wanting to be. We're not trying to create cookie cutter clinicians that everyone comes out of the program with the same way of thinking. We really want the diversity of experience, and you're bringing in your own unique perspective. So just sit deeply into yourself, let it flow, and feel free to be like, I don't know. I have to think about that. And I haven't really thought about that question. So thank you for asking that question, and let me see it. And I don't know is a very powerful thing to say, because I think sometimes we know we don't know, and then we ugh. But it's okay to not know something, because it's also showing a great trait of a therapist to be able to not have to be able to sit in the unknown. So, don't worry about it. Let's see. Okay. So again, just as a little recap for some of these questions, we start enrollment in the fall, and you are on a track. So there's no ability to jump halfway through, because a lot of the courses, as you see, you start with child, and then adolescent, and then adult, and then aging and long-term. The marital family therapies are sequenced as well. And a lot of the knowledge is built from previous classes, or prerequisites from previous classes. And you have to start your practicum at a specific time, and you need those courses to be able to start your practicum. So there's no way to start on another track. You have to start in the fall. And yeah, and there's a 2-year and a 3-year program. If you have questions about that, because I know it's a little abstract, but it basically just takes that first year and makes it into 2 years. And your last year in the program looks the same, 20 hours of practicum in class on Tuesdays. So can your portfolio be submitted around March or April? We need everything to be submitted if you want to apply for the fall of next year. We need that portfolio submitted in November 21st. The prerequisites are something else that we know can be done, but having a complete application for us is you're telling us your prerequisite plan, you have your portfolio images up, you have your letters of recommendation sent out, so we're waiting on those, and you have your autobiography in, so that way we can start that application looking at it. Because if we wait until we're not going to be able to get that in time, because but you can always apply next year as well. And so sometimes people are put on a wait list, and we do go into the wait list usually, because there are people who defer and things like that. So we'll let you know what number you are on the wait list to help make some of those decisions as well. Okay, so much information. Well, I hope it was helpful in some way. So what percentage of the people? Like I said, 6 months, we did a survey at 6 months and 90% of our graduates have jobs. And that's usually a really good rate for us. We usually have everybody kind of working that wants to work. Some people take time off. Some people have life changes where they decide, hey, I have to stay home and do caring for a family member or a child, or they decide to work part-time, or they decide to take a summer to travel around the world and they decide to look for a job at a later time. We haven't really had anyone that I've encountered that was really looking for a job that hasn't been able to find one. Sometimes they're looking for a specific kind of work that's harder. Because again, as an art therapist in MFT, there's so many different places you can work. You can work as an auxiliary, not a primary clinician. So it means you do more support. So you might be working in hospital settings or in school settings where you're just kind of meeting with students or patients as, you know, but you might also be working inside of an agency where you are the primary clinician, where you are diagnosing and writing reports. And so people work all over the place, you know, and I've done some interesting things. I worked on film sets as like a therapist on call for actors that had like really intense work to do. You know, I worked in an adolescent mandated court substance use program where they did not want to be there. And now I work in a private practice with couples and individuals. My youngest client's 15, my oldest client's 84. And so a swath, yeah. Yeah, and again, you can defer twice if you don't get accepted. And if you don't get in this time, we encourage people to reapply because, again, sometimes we get like really great candidates, we just can't accept everybody. So there are people who've applied 2-3 times and then get in, and it's not anything, you know, personal. It's just about like trying to balance out a cohort. It's not easy, you know. But yes, okay. So I wish I'll just chat with you all forever. I had a coffee, if you couldn't tell, so you know, makes it a little easier. But because I teach all day on Tuesdays with the students, so it's really a great moment when there's a really good cohort, because a lot of it is, again, you all asking questions and being together and exploring these things, and it's really great. And it's good to be back and in person. But we're still offering and having courses on how to do this via telehealth, because it is still the future of, I think, of therapy, of doing a lot of this remotely. So we're excited to have learned that and figure out how to apply that too. Okay. If you don't get in the 1 year and you want to submit the same application, you can. But hopefully in that year, some things have happened to you, and maybe you've done some things that you want to kind of like help boost that application, so you can add supplemental materials and reactivate an old application. And again, I'll put my email right here. And if you have any specific questions, you can email me. And if I'm not getting back to you, at lmu.edu, I'll put that back again. Okay. And also, Lori Gloyd is another person. If you're not hearing from me, you can also CC Lori, because we get sometimes a lot of emails. And so it's nice to maybe put us both on there. So Lori can be like, did you respond? Because she'll get on me. Okay, so thank you so much for your interest. And again, oh yeah, the practicum locations. You can email me and then I can forward the information to Kathleen. And let me just actually put one more thing in the link, which is we have some videos that it would be kind of nice if you haven't looked at them already. One second, let me give you that link. So we can go over. So if you have any more questions about the practicum, there's a video you can watch and learn a little bit more about the practicum. And some students who are talking about their experiences in the practicum spaces. So here's that link if anyone wants to go watch that video, and you can peruse around the website. Most of the information I said is available on there as well. You may all now go live your lives, and I will be available if you have any other questions. All right, thank you so much.